Welcome back, everybody. And Andrew, over to you.
Thanks, and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to track 2 of Creative Operations Asia Pacific. My name's Andrew Limas. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Creative Folks, and it's my pleasure today to introduce to you Raja Singh from State Street. Raja is going to be talking to us about the benefits of tiering projects in design workflow. If you're looking for customizing the intake process to drive efficiencies in our workflow with Xero, then please go and rejoin track 1 in your agenda. A little bit of housekeeping for these interaction sessions. While Raja will be presenting, I'll be monitoring some Q&A, and it's really important that if you want to ask your questions, you use the Q&A box in the little pop-out section. Now note, the Q&A is the little speech bubble with a little question mark in it to the right. The initial one will be the chat. Try and put your questions in the Q&A, please, so that I can see them. And I'll collect those questions and ask them to Raja towards the end of the presentation. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Raja. He's going to talk about the challenges with creating content and process workflows across regions and countries, but also making sure that your content processes are focused on people's specializations. Over to you, Raja.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the session on the benefits of tiering projects in a design workflow. I'm excited to be presenting here today. I'm really excited and really talk about some of the things that I have learned during the course of my career. So first, I would like to introduce myself. So like Andrew mentioned, my name is Raja, and currently, I had the creative services team at State Street. Before State Street, I worked as an art director and creative operations manager at Deloitte, where I helped setting up the capability center for Tier 1 design support from India. I have extensive experience in creative operations, and I'm going to talk about some of those things here in this session. So today we'll be going through the tiering process in an in-house creative services function. We'll also go through some of the best practices and tips on how to tier projects to align them with the skill set that you have. And you would be able to also take a call on what kind of skill set you need based on the work that you are doing, and create specialized workflows around that. Once tiering of the projects is done, you can process them in a way best suited for each type of project, resulting in saving of time, increased productivity, and efficiency. I'll also walk you through a sample Tier 1 flow, and also a sample workflow for a production design support that can be really helpful to tackle quick turnaround projects which are near to the dollar, and that helps you not lose focus on some of the complex or high-end creative projects that the creative team loves to do. So talking a little bit more about the production design, having a dedicated production team, obviously it is under one of the tiers that we'll be talking about, but having a dedicated production team or a quick turnaround team that can help with the quick request has its own benefits. It actually helps the creative designers stay motivated and focused on high-end creative work. And at the same time, you are able to meet the crucial business needs, which often every now and then we get to know, okay, this is a top priority project and it requires to be done in a quickly manner or a timely manner. So we are able to address those things as well. Both these things have benefits of their own, but if you look at some of the benefits and some of the shared benefits, I would say it results in time saving, increased productivity. It gives a room for designers to enhance their skills. It helps them retaining the designer and the talent that you have, and increase designer morale. So we'll go through all these things in detail in subsequent slides. So let's talk about tiering a little bit more in detail. Tiering is an industry standard, and in design functions, we have 3 tiers defined. Basically, tiering is labeling your projects according to a predefined set of criteria. That criteria could be anything depending on like the kind of objective you are trying to meet. But at the minimum, that criteria must include the creative complexity involved in each project. There could be other project or other parameters as well, like the need for project management, the need of art direction, the time and duration a project takes. All those things are taken into consideration when you're like tiering up projects. So as you can see on the slide, tiering is basically the tier 1 projects are like complex projects that requires extensive creative consultation, some high-end creative skills.
Sorry, Raja, unfortunately, you're not sharing the slides. Can you just double check that it's working properly? Because I know you're sharing some really great information there, but we can't see it, I'm afraid.
I'm sorry, just a minute. Yeah, I think there was some issue. Is my screen visible now?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. Apologies. I mean, you might want to cover back over something just quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry for that. So, like I mentioned, we'll be talking about the tiering and production design. And here are like some of the shared benefits that tiering and production design has. We'll be going through these in detail in the coming slides. And I was like talking about tiering. So basically we have 3 tiers as an industry standard. Tier 1 projects are like highly complex creative work that requires creative consultation, new concept development, art direction. And tier 2 projects are basically previously approved concepts, just applying them on new deliverables. And tier 3 is a very production type of work, which is like we already have like templates and guidelines in place, basically requiring very basic design judgment. So if you look at this slide, it will help you to understand tiers in a better manner. So like I mentioned, tier 1 projects are that require extensive project management, art direction, creative consultation. It requires a project plan with benchmarks, collaboration among multiple designers. Maybe multiple designers are collaborating if it's like a multi-skill project that requires like a motion graphic to be created. Maybe an illustrator is creating the storyboard, and then they are like all coming together and creating an animation. Skill set requirement is also advanced. Complexity is high. So that's like tier 1. And tier 1 projects are basically the projects which are like very less in volume in the nature of work that we do. On the other hand, tier 2 projects, they are like sometimes require project management. Not that much of art direction is required because most of that work is like already been done. Creative consultation is also limited, and there's like very less requirement of multiple designers coming together. Usually 1 or 2 designers can handle these kind of projects. And on the contrary, tier 3 projects requires no project management, art direction, creative consultation, or complexity is also low. So tier 3 projects are like basically templated work, which just going through the production cycle. Apart from these, there could be like additional things that you may consider in setting up a tiering matrix. It could be the corporate compliance requirement that you have, the complexity of the project that is different from the creative complexity. Suppose you have a big document and that requires like a good eye for detail, that may fall under a different tier altogether. Something that is of urgent nature. It could be any project that is like a very quick turnaround and required maybe by the CEO. So that will take precedence over other projects. So basically, this is a general matrix that can help you decide the tiers that you are like looking for. But there are like other parameters that you may consider based on the objective that you are trying to meet. So further summarize the previous slide, I think in general, all the graphic design projects can be aligned into 3 tiers based on the creativity and complexity involved, the kind of skill set is required for that project, and the priority of the projects. So we'll be going through a little bit of detail for all 3 of these, and we'll start with the creativity and the complexity part. Now, when it comes to creativity and complexity, it's very important to assess the requirement for each project type in your organization. Not every project may require a detailed creative brief or involvement of a creative director or a project manager. Now, by identifying the projects based on the creative complexity, you can set up high-level processes to identify which steps to take for a tier 1 project and where it should go versus like a tier 2 or a tier 3 project. What this will help you achieve is this will actually eliminate some of the extra steps that usually you will be like taking for a tier 1 projects, and avoid unnecessary groundwork wherever it is like not required. A tier 1 project may require a detailed creative brief to be filled up, right? And it may require a proper meeting to happen between the client, the stakeholders, and the creative director, and maybe the designers. That completely depends on like the kind of workflow that you are like have set up in your organization. On the other hand, a tier 3 project will require a simple work intake form, or maybe just like an email to be dropped, say, I want this project to be done, and you can like take it from there without getting into a creative consultation or any kind of further information from the stakeholders. So let's take a look at a sample high-level tier 1 and tier 2 workflow, how it looks like. So this workflow completely may differ from what you currently have or what you may have. But here, I'll not get into too much of detail about this workflow, but what I want to highlight here is the automated triage that is happening after the customer fills the work intake form through a workflow tool, or it could be like any process that you may have. If you are not using any ticket management system, you can set those criteria manually and move the projects forward manually. But here I want to highlight, like, once a ticket is received in a ticket management or a workflow tool system, it automatically gets triaged based on the parameters which are like set into the system or manually. It could be based on the project type that you select, like a motion graphic project could be like a tier 1 project automatically, or a concept development project can be a tier 1 project. If someone selects PowerPoint, it goes directly to the tier 3 or the production queue. It could be a client or sales presentation as well. So the tool will automatically triage the projects and move it to appropriate queue as the next step. Now, just like the designers which are there, the traffic manager or project coordinators are also assigned to those queues. And in the next step, which is like highlighted in the box here, the traffic manager can reassess the project and move the project to necessary queue as required. And then it can follow the workflow fine for that particular tier and project type. So what I really mean here is that even if it is like a PowerPoint project, which gets triaged as like a tier 3 or a production design project, it may be complex in nature. It may require art direction. It may require some kind of concept development. So it can be like swept and triaged as like a tier 2 or tier 3 project at this stage. And then you can like follow the appropriate steps which are like there in your organization or in your design workflow for each project type, depending on the complexity of the project. So this really highlights like how triaging can help you drive dedicated workflow in your overall workflow. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is the skill set. So skill set is very important. It's very important that the skill set that you have is aligned to the work that you are doing. If the kind of work that you are doing is very production type in nature and the kind of skill set that you have is very advanced, then obviously there will be an issue with retaining the talent, and obviously the designers will not be that happy working on production type of projects on a regular basis. And so is the case otherwise as well. If you are getting like a lot of projects which are tier 1 in nature or advanced creative skills or advanced skill set in nature, and you have basic design skills as the skill set in your team, there could be like that gap that needs to be filled up. So, and it will also give you like you and your team less room from the growth perspective as well. They will have very less room to grow their skills and career. And even if you look at it like from other aspect of say compensation wise as well, if you have high skilled designers and the kind of work that they are doing is very basic in nature, you'll end up paying more and spending higher on the work that you are getting done versus what is like required for that kind of work. So through tiering your work, you can easily find the right mix of execution level staff required for an operating environment you have. So here in this example, you can see that a sample of work breakdown by tier and the type of design staff that you should have to meet your requirements. So if you are like dealing with it can like vary depending on the kind of projects that you are dealing with. And the overlap that you see here is something that allows the designers to collaborate and share work with other senior designers, junior designers. So they may be collaborating and sharing skills, knowledge, tips and tricks with other designers. Tier 2 designers can also get to work on some of the tier 1 projects and gain some exposure to some of the high-end work that the tier 1 designers are doing, and they can get inspiration. They can build their skills and progress their career. Similarly, designers and production designers can also focus on tier 3 projects as well, but they also have the opportunity to work on some creative projects. So this clearly illustrates a key benefit of tiering in terms of providing upskilling opportunities to designers and giving them challenging work all the time and keeping them motivated. Now, if I move to the next slide, and here I'm talking about a skill set matrix, and this is another way to keep your staff motivated towards upskilling, and also knowing which staff is more skilled in one application than the other by creating a skill set matrix. And you may define like what all skill in an application are required to be at a certain level, with say level 3 being like the advanced user and level 1 being a beginner. So here in this example, let's take Photoshop as an example, right? So if a designer is at skill level 1 or is at a beginner level, he should be able to perform some of the basic tasks in Photoshop, like say basic photo correction or color correction. Maybe that person is able to work with selections, have a basic understanding of working with layers and so on. And someone who is at like level 2 should be maybe able to edit videos in Photoshop, or prepare files for web. And someone at say level 3 would be able to maybe work in 3D in Photoshop, produce more accurate colors across mediums, do some complex tasks, maybe work in Camera Raw. So depending on like the tasks that one is able to accomplish in a given application, the skill set rating is like defined. And what this does is like this actually helps the designer as well to know like at what level of an application I am at, and where I can be if I like work a little extra towards gaining that knowledge and doing some trainings. And that as a manager, you can also have an overview of the entire team. Like in this table, you can see the designer 1, designer 2, and designer 3, who is more skilled, who is like a subject matter expertise, has a subject matter expertise in one application, who is like the go-to person for videos, who is the go-to person for something related to illustration. So it gives you like an overview of your team as well. And how this mapping has helped me over the years is to have like a productive conversation with the designers. Like I mentioned, you can really get into conversation about like upskilling and enhancing their knowledge, and help them set the learning goals for themselves and acquire new skills. So it's a very useful metrics to have, and obviously it gives you like a clear understanding of the skills level of the entire team, and bridge any gaps by organizing targeted trainings and workshops to fill the gaps. So moving on to the next slide, we talk about priority and scale. Creating a prioritization scale could be very helpful in defining what values most to the organization. It can vary organization to organization, and this can be done in conjunction with your tiering model, or you can do it outside of it. A tier 3 project could be a very high priority project, whereas a complex tier 1 project may not be of that importance to him. It could be like very internal in nature. So in most organizations, it is connected to the projects which has like the most money riding on it, and with the most pressing deadlines. Even though it might feel good to check all the easier items of your list first, but it's always important to get the most important projects done first. Moving on to the sample production design workflow. Like I mentioned on previous slide, that prioritization scale can be set in conjunction with the tiering model or outside of it as well. So production design support can be a subset of tier 3 design support, or could be a separate classification altogether. And the purpose of setting up a production design workflow is to address like small, quick turn requests, which otherwise could be difficult to support while staying focused on long-term complex requests. So obviously production design is also like a tier 3 project, but here we are like looking at getting those projects done on a quickly basis without going through all the processes of like a regular workflow. And by devoting production designers to support each project, you can alleviate like some of the challenges faced with the urgent request, with the commitment to improve the turnaround, and falling within like the defined scope of the project. So basically production design is like not highly conceptual or long-term projects. Some of the examples are like small presentation, Word documents, basically emails, office posters, which are like very templated in nature. And the time duration wise as well, they're like short time, like under 3 hours of design work is required, and quick turnaround projects. Some of the key benefits of production design are like increased efficiency and speed by reducing the handling time, reduced project management effort, because these are like straight to the designer projects, and increase in the actual utilization by allowing designers to be more nimbly able to like more nimbly respond to the availability. And so basically, in a nutshell, I would say you can develop like a tiering model that meets your specific goals. You really need to focus on what's the objective that you are trying to meet, and work on the tiering criteria, processes, and workflows from there, and see what works best for you. I hope I was able to cover like some of the key aspects which are like required for the tiering workflow. So thank you, everyone. Andrew, over to you.
Thanks, Raja. Thanks for that. That's very interesting. I've only got one question here, and it's to do with, it's great that you recognize the skill sets and the individual's capability when you're assessing what work they can do. And having that sort of three-tiered approach is important when you're dealing with the functional aspects of it. But do you overlay any costs, as in whether it's staff costs or how much you're charging for a job? You know, because there is that other layer into it as well. You're not just tiering in terms of skill and ability and time duration, but you've also got a cost tiering as well as associated with it. So you don't want to have your most senior, more expensive people spending more time on certain things versus your junior people. Is there anything you can sort of further allude on that?
Yeah, so obviously, like I mentioned, the tiering process, it completely depends on like the parameters that you set when you are like setting up that process for your team, right? And cost could be like one factor associated to it. Complexity of the project, another aspect to it. So it completely depends on the nature of work that you are doing, and like I mentioned, like the kind of objective that you are trying to meet. So obviously you can also consider the cost factor as well.
Yeah, so each individual organization should look at its own business in terms of how it delivers things, apply its own cost levels, but having a simple three-tier process generally fits most of the scenarios that you're going to come across in a day-to-day operation of a production.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Look, that's it from Raja today. Thank you very much for everybody who's listening. Up next is we hear about how brands are using a DAM to deliver great digital experiences with Binder in track 1. Following this, you can learn about how Google Marketing Operations built a team of specialists to deliver creative excellence in track 1. And then back here with me in track 2 was redefining mobile ad experience to drive real connection with consumers, which is really quite interesting because mobile is quite different to creating content for other areas. So thanks very much for that. And we'll see you in a few minutes in the Binder tech session now. Cheerio.